How's it going, everyone? Welcome to episode 150 of the Leadway Wealth Builders podcast. Yes, that is 150 episodes. Thank you so much for tuning in all the way from episode 1 to 150. And you can go back and see basically from when I quit my job all the way to where I am now and how I'm handling these problems in my business, as you probably saw the title. So if you haven't listened to this podcast before, my name is Chris Rickenbaugh, and I am a house flipper and own a house flipping business in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I'm using this podcast to document my journey in real estate and business, and also talking a little bit about travel hacking and personal finance. You can find me on social media on TikTok and Instagram at chris.rickenbaugh. So that's chris.REICHENBACH. So you can find me there. You can see exactly what I'm doing throughout the day, things I'm learning, problems I'm having, walking my flips. You'll be able to see it all there. And if you want to keep listening to this podcast, stay right where you are, or you have the availability to listen on Spotify, Apple, Podbean, and YouTube. So I wanted to keep this episode a little bit short today, but yeah, it is really cool to be able to go through 150 podcast episodes. I hear a lot about people stopping right after, stopping relatively quickly, but going through that, I'm starting to get more guests on. I have a great one for you on Friday with a wholesaler, Eric Bledsoe, who wholesales here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And then I have another one that'll be next Friday with a couple who invests in Florida and has some Airbnbs, who have a really, really cool story that they're going to be able to share on the podcast. So make sure you're tuning in for those, because it is only going to get better. And please provide any help or any support, questions, comments. I'd love to be able to hear them and make the podcast grow. So let's hop into today's topic about how I'm handling problems in my business, because there are definitely a couple problems going on that I'm having to sort through right now, like ending a bad partnership. And that's probably the big one. I talked a little bit about it on episode 149, so the last episode, and, going through some different changes in my business, what I'm going to do. So I wanted to talk about how I'm handling those problems and how I'm viewing them. So I wanted to start off by breaking down this quote of Dan Martell in Buy Back Your Time. And it's, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So I have really big goals. I set big 10x goals that I write down every single morning. And, when I really think about those, it's, my game just doesn't level up because I'm writing them down every day. It goes throughout the day, how I'm working through them, how I'm reaching those goals, how I'm networking, how I'm raising money, finding projects, finding new flips. And, I think about, okay, well, what's this next step? What's going to be able to get me closer to this goal and be able to develop those systems and processes to be able to get there? So one of those systems that failed, and why I'm in the situation that I'm in, is that I didn't handle a partnership very well. So now this was, throughout the project, and we did not set up a JV agreement. We did not set up who's doing what in the partnership. It was all kind of handshake deals. And this is one of those systems, because, I hear people who are in partnerships. I even read books about it, but, I didn't think it would turn out like this. And it sounds like I'm in the boat with a lot of other people who get started in this business off handshake deals. So we didn't have anything written down, and it's turning into a big disagreement now, holding up the sale of a property, and me just trying to get out from under it, giving up all of, the money that I was owed from the project just to be done with it, because I know on my own, I'll be able to make that back tenfold, way more than I ever could, just trying to battle this out, if it goes any farther. So that is one of the systems. So now everything that I'm doing going forward has to be written down. It has to be gone through a JV agreement. There has to be a contract, and it has to be notarized to show that everybody is understanding their part, the consequences of who doesn't, if you don't do your part, what is going to happen. So, that was a really, really big one that's going on right now currently. So I'll definitely make sure to update on the podcast whenever I kind of get through this little storm here. But I really wanted to break that down because that quote really sticks out to me a lot of the time. And anytime you have problems, it's like, okay, well, there's obviously, if there's friction between what I want to do in my head and the actual action, or if there's disagreements between people, there's probably a broken system in there somewhere. And, Buy Back Your Time is all about systems and processes to be able to build a business and be able to get yourself out of the business. And I really, really love the book, and I really love this quote that you're not rising to the level of your goals, you're falling to the level of your systems and standards. And that was a really big one in the first company I worked for, in the second, and now I'm seeing it in my own business that, you just kind of have to take it on the chin. You have to understand it and say, okay, this happened one time. I need to be able to learn from this. It's one thing to read it in a book and have somebody tell you, but until you're actually experiencing it, it's really, really tough. But that's your learning lesson. Don't make that mistake again. So that's pretty much where I'm at. It was a broken system with a partnership that wasn't written down, no JV. It's just a 50-50 partnership and then a handshake deal on who managed the project. And they're causing problems now at the closing table. So I'll make sure to update you on that whenever we kind of get that settled. But as for now, this was episode 150 of the Leadway Wealth Builders podcast. Again, tune in on Friday with a great interview with Eric Bledsoe talking about wholesaling in the Charlotte market. And thank you again for listening to all of these podcasts, all 150, and to the next 150. This is Chris Rickenbaugh saying see you later on the Leadway Wealth Builders podcast.